Hello, Ellie. I rolled for everybody, and let's say that things are about to get weird because you are playing the time traveling gods of our strange little game world. They have been traveling back and forth through a cycle of time like a giant game of Groundhog Day, trying to cultivate an armed resistance that will be able to defeat the Realm Scourge. And so far, they haven't been very successful in that. You get to start in any country on the map that is not occupied by someone else, but since you hate making decisions and there were 6 options, 5 at best if Jerry picked 1 too, because he also gets to start wherever he wants. I just rolled a die and you ended up in Rundle. So I hope you're okay with that. You can choose something else that's different if you like, but let's talk about what you're working with. So you're going to have an instant ability for your stronghold bonus. You don't have to invest in any country to be able to use this. You can use it at any time. And one thing that you're going to notice is that time manipulation is going to be something that is going to be more integral to your faction than others. So remember how you were getting annoyed about needing AP manipulation? Well, you're going to get a lot of it with this faction. The first thing I want to mention though is that the hired ninjas, while they are not very resilient, not very good at taking damage, they can, for 1 movement and 1 AP, reappear anywhere on the map. I'm sure you remember that tactic. But also for their other AP, they can use ninjutsu, which is a magic scaling attack, which is great because a lot of things happen to be weak to magic by about 10. It also does an additional plus 6 damage to heroes. So if you manage to line up with a hero that is weak to magic, you can do an additional 16 damage, which is going to be pretty helpful because their base power isn't really anything to write home about, even for an army. But that strategic advantage was more meant to give them the ability to defend the Crystal Sanctum at a moment's notice, if need be, because these are the gods that bestow upon mortal men the rings of power that unite and divide us. So naturally, they wouldn't necessarily be interested in plundering this for themselves in this scenario. Instead, they would more be the ones handing out such power. So being able to appear within that territory is important for them. Moving on to Gilgamesh, though, Gilgamesh has a lot of passives. Not really impressive in his defensive capabilities, kind of middling endurance, pretty low HP for a hero. Decent offensive power, not super high, especially not super high for a 1 AP per turn unit. However, to make up for that, he has a staggering number of passives on wings that transcend time. The first of those is that he will recover 20 HP for 1 ally in his territory at the beginning of each turn if able. So not only can he passively heal himself, but he can also pass that healing along to others that are within the same territory as him, and this will happen at the beginning of every turn. So this makes him a healer without having to waste any of his AP doing so. He can also, unlike every other hero in the game, bank his AP between turns if it's unnecessary for him to use it. So that's interesting. On his second action onward, you gain 5 power for each action beyond the first. And I want to make that possible for you to use protective wards into it. But protective wards is going to apply, and I actually do want to make this a little bit weaker. Apply a 30 HP shield to allies in your territory. You'll notice that this is a little bit weaker than the heal. Well, this is 50% weaker than Killface heal. However, this can actually over-heal up to 30 points above people's thresholds. So this can kind of boost up people's HP, which makes it a pretty powerful form of healing, especially if it's more supplementary. And then you have Kotetsu, which is unmitigated ice damage to all unallied units in a particular territory. And again, this is going to increase in power by 5 each time it's used per turn. So this is very similar in a lot of ways to Oldoa's gameplay, except that he is kind of saving his power across turns to have one turn where he goes off and wipes out an entire area. And he is a lot more selective in how he does that, as opposed to Oldoa, who is more like carpet bombing an entire area. If you're wondering how this guy is going to get even more AP, because unlike most people who start with 1 AP, he actually maxes out at 4, which is more common for people who start with 2 AP, because usually folks who have 1 AP per turn would be so broken at 4 AP that I wouldn't even consider it, but it's kind of the game plan for this guy. So with Omnilus being his kind of 100 multi-century long traveling companion, a lot of the emphasis on their gameplay is learning to play them together and keeping them together. Also, Omnilus has the ability to manipulate time, so a lot of her skills are going to be instantaneous or are going to involve the manipulation of time. So with Advent Comet, you have an instant 1 AP skills that hits for unmitigated damage. Now it's good that this is unmitigated damage because she only has 30 power, which is pretty bad. There are definitely ways to get armies stronger than that, so that's pretty pathetic. However, she can use this twice per round, so potentially she can react really well with damage or with defense as well. Height-based Cura for 1 AP is also an instant skill that allows Omnilus to heal herself and allies within her territory by 25 HP. Again, you could use this back to back, but instantaneously, so you could use it as a reaction, or you could just kind of wait to see if you want to heal or do damage, and just kind of let how things play out determine how that works. And then finally, you have the Flow of Time. For both of her AP, she deals water magic damage, restores 25 HP to an allied unit, and gives an allied hero 1 AP, which is going to be great for Gilgamesh. Essentially, this allows her to forego making instantaneous decisions and manipulating time in that way by changing the future, by kind of sending energy to the future in the way of, because like it's pretty cool. It's especially going to be strong with Gilgamesh, and I think that it might be too strong with Gilgamesh potentially. So I think making them have a lot of gameplay between turns is an interesting way to go with this. So with all of that being said, congratulations, Ellie. You are the wandering gods of the world, and you have lived through just, I don't know. I think I tried to figure this out once, and we honestly don't know the answer to how many times they have relived the same, like, 400 or 500 years leading up to the moments that we are experiencing now. But they've played with a lot of time, so I was hoping that plays into how they play. But yeah, again, you can pick a different place to put them if you would like, if you have any kind of a strategic favorite that you see on the field. But if you don't, then hey, I made that decision for you. Hope you appreciate it. Okay, well, I'll see you Sunday.